Imagine this. You're walking down a busy street, minding your own business, when someone steps into your path and deliberately cuts deep. Maybe they mock the way you look, the way you walk, the clothes you're wearing. Maybe they question your intelligence, your worth, or everything you've worked tirelessly to build. Perhaps it's someone you thought was neutral, someone you never expected, yet they find a way to hit you right where it hurts. Most people, when faced with this, react instinctively. They flare up with anger, their voices rise, their hands shake, their face burns red with indignation. And suddenly, the world is no longer about them, but about defending their fragile ego. And in that very moment, they are already losing. They are already handing over the control of their life, their emotions, and their power on a silver plate. But here's the thing, Machiavelli understood 500 years ago, and yet it remains a truth that almost no one fully grasps today. The moment you allow someone else to dictate your emotional state, you are no longer in control. The moment you react to their petty attempts to provoke you, you have already surrendered your strength. And most people never realize this. They live their lives as though every insult, every betrayal, every mocking glance is a personal assault on their existence, not understanding that the only weapon they ever truly possess, their only real source of power, is their ability to remain unshaken. Now imagine an alternative. Imagine a state of mind so unmovable that no jab, no slight, no whisper of disrespect could ever disturb it. Imagine becoming so mentally untouchable that people start to fear your calm more than they fear any outburst of anger, where insults roll off you like water off iron, where mockery slides past you like shadows in the dark, leaving you unscathed. This is not fantasy. This is not arrogance. This is the reality of the Machiavellian mindset, and it is exactly what this video will teach you. By the end, you won't just know how to survive the provocations of the world. You'll know how to thrive in them, how to remain unshakable, unbothered, and commanding of respect without ever having to ask for it. To understand how to command respect without asking, you need to grasp the core principle that drives all true power. People can only control you if you allow them to. Think about that for a moment. Words, actions, insults, betrayals, they hold no inherent power over you. Their power is nothing more than the reaction they provoke inside of you. And this is the distinction that most people miss entirely. They believe that being untouchable means being passive, meek, or weak. They confuse indifference with impotence. Machiavelli knew differently. True detachment is not the absence of strength, it is the height of dominance. When you are untouchable, when you operate beyond the reach of others' petty attempts to manipulate you, you become a force that is both feared and respected. Your indifference is not a shield, it is a weapon. This video is about more than just mental toughness. It is about mastering the laws that allow you to maintain control over your own state of mind, to remain impervious to the chaos, envy, and disrespect that swirl around you at every moment. Most people wander through life expecting fairness, expecting kindness, expecting that others will treat them the way they deserve to be treated. When life fails to deliver, they crumble. They are unprepared, surprised, and hurt. Machiavelli saw the world clearly, and he did not confuse the world's cruelty for an insult. He understood it as a strategic reality. The goal is not to avoid conflict or disrespect. It is to harness the power that comes from mastering yourself, to turn the chaos of the world into a source of your own strength, and to operate in a space where no one, absolutely no one, can shake your composure. The truth is stark, but liberating. If you can control your reactions, if you can master the way the world touches your mind and emotions, you have achieved a level of authority and dominance that most people will never know. You are no longer playing defense against the world. You are orchestrating your own experience, dictating the terms under which others may interact with you. You become untouchable not by instilling fear through aggression, but by embodying a calm so profound, so unshakable, that it draws respect naturally, without a single demand, without a single plea. And that is the foundation upon which everything else in this video is built. At the heart of Machiavelli's teachings lies a principle so simple, yet so profoundly powerful, that those who grasp it transform their entire existence. The principle of detachment. It sounds cold at first, almost ruthless, but that is the point. You see, insults, slights, attacks, none of these things carry intrinsic meaning. They are nothing but vibrations in the air, sounds leaving someone else's mouth, gestures meant to provoke a reaction that they hope will validate their own sense of power. The moment you react, the moment you let those words or actions penetrate your mind, their effect is no longer external. It becomes internal, and in that instant, they have stolen from you what they cannot truly own. Your composure, your focus, your control. Detachment is the recognition that emotional control is the ultimate form of power. It is not about pretending that nothing matters. It is about understanding that what matters is entirely within your control. The world will continue to act with envy, malice, and disdain. But if you maintain a mental state that refuses to be touched, you strip every external influence of its ability to harm you. People will look at you and see calmness, steadiness, a presence that cannot be shaken. This is dominance. This is the power that Machiavelli wrote about, the kind that ensures that you are never at the mercy of anyone else's whims, insults, or attempts at manipulation. Indifference is the weapon that others do not understand. When you refuse to react to their provocations, when their words fail to pierce the shield of your mind, you rob them of leverage. The moment they realize that nothing they do can disturb you, they are forced to reassess their strategy. They become uncertain. They become cautious. They begin to respect your steadiness, whether they consciously admit it or not. The mastery of detachment is not passive. It is an active, strategic choice to control your internal world when everything outside seems chaotic, hostile, or unpredictable. It transforms every slight into a non-event, every insult into an empty gesture, every betrayal into a predictable action that no longer has power over you. To operate under this principle, you must first recognize that you have the authority over your own reactions. No one else can dictate how you feel unless you give them that permission. This is the beginning of mental mastery, the realization that the world can throw anything at you, yet you can remain untouchable. Once this understanding is internalized, it becomes a lens through which all interactions are filtered. You stop being a participant in the petty games of others and start observing, anticipating, and controlling the energy you allow into your mind. You begin to transform from a reactive, vulnerable individual into a calculating, composed force that commands attention and respect, simply through presence and self-mastery. Detachment is not about withdrawing from the world or pretending to be unaffected. It is about choosing the battlefield on which you engage. It is about turning every potential attack into an opportunity to assert your mental dominance. The world tests everyone relentlessly, but only those who have learned detachment survive intact, unshaken, and increasingly formidable with each challenge. When you achieve this, when you embody this principle fully, you no longer need to beg for respect, to argue for fairness, or to defend your worth. Respect is no longer a request. It becomes the natural consequence of the unshakable force that you have made yourself to be. Now that you understand the core of Machiavelli's philosophy, the principle that true power begins the moment you refuse to surrender control of your emotions, you are ready for the next step. This is where most people fail. They may grasp the idea in theory, nodding along as if they understand it. But when the world tests them, when insults, betrayal, or mockery arrive, they fall apart. Their calmness is shallow. Their detachment is fragile, and that is why they remain ordinary, vulnerable, and ultimately powerless. This video is about breaking free from that ordinary fate. It is about going beyond the surface-level understanding of composure into the realm of strategic mental mastery. Machiavelli did not write his lessons for the faint-hearted or for the naive. He wrote them for those willing to see the world as it truly is, stripped of illusions, and to act from a position of unshakable control. You are about to be introduced to 10 laws that are dark, precise, and unapologetically realistic, that will teach you how to become untouchable. These are not soft tips or feel-good advice. These are strategies designed to transform your presence, your reactions, and ultimately, the way the world perceives you. By mastering these laws, you will become unpredictable. Others will never be able to anticipate your reactions, because you have learned to govern yourself first and foremost. They will try to provoke you, to test you, and you will be ready. They will attempt to manipulate you, and you will see it coming. Their strategies transparent, powerless against your control. You will cultivate a presence that demands attention, a demeanor that commands respect, and a mental state that is completely untouchable. The stakes are clear. Mastery of these laws does not simply improve your life. It elevates you above the chaos, envy, and petty assaults of others. You become a force that cannot be controlled, manipulated, or undermined. So steel yourself. What follows is not easy, and it is not comforting. It is a roadmap to mental dominance, to becoming someone who operates beyond the reach of trivial slights, insults, and attempts at provocation. Each law is a weapon, each principle a tool, and each insight a key to becoming untouchable. By internalizing these laws, you will no longer need to ask for respect, because your presence, your composure, and your mastery of self will make respect inevitable. Law 1. Expect disrespect before it arrives. The first law is deceptively simple, yet it is the foundation of everything that follows. Always expect disrespect. Most people go through life as if fairness, kindness, and decency are guaranteed, as if the world owes them civility simply because they exist. When reality hits them, the betrayal, the envy, the mockery, they are shocked. Their defenses crumble, and they are caught off guard at every turn. Machiavelli never allowed himself this luxury. He understood that disrespect is never accidental. It is a strategy, a test, a measure of your strength, and the world delivers it with precision. By expecting disrespect, you are preparing yourself for every possible attack. You remove surprise from the equation. When someone attempts to provoke you, it no longer carries the sting it does for the unprepared. Instead, it becomes predictable, almost mundane, and therefore powerless. Think of life as a dangerous neighborhood. Those who walk blindly through it are prey, while those who anticipate threats move through it like predators, calm, alert, and untouchable. Every insult, every underhanded remark becomes a tool to measure and reinforce your readiness. The wise person does not react with shock or offense. They absorb the insult, analyze the intent behind it, and choose their response, or lack of response, with precision. The fool was caught off guard, blindsided by every attempt at manipulation, always struggling to regain composure. Machiavelli knew that power is a product of preparation. When you walk through life expecting envy, betrayal, and mockery, you neutralize the strength of those who attempt to harm you. By the time they try to disrupt you, they find only an unshakable presence that anticipates every move. From this moment forward, train yourself to expect disrespect. Make it routine. Let it become a mental rehearsal that fortifies your calm, sharpens your focus, and prepares you to be untouchable no matter what the world throws at you. Law 2. Master the art of silence. The second law is one that most people will never truly understand because it requires restraint, patience, and an almost unnatural command over one's impulses. Master The art of silence. The majority of people think that defending themselves, explaining their worth, or retaliating with words is the path to respect. They believe that speaking up, arguing, and justifying themselves will prove their strength. Machiavelli knew the opposite. True power is not in what you say. It is in what you choose not to say. Your silence is a weapon far more precise and devastating than the loudest argument. When someone attempts to provoke you, when they aim to insult, manipulate, or belittle you, their goal is singular. They want a reaction. They are seeking validation through your emotional upheaval. Every word you shout in defense, every argument you launch in retaliation is their victory. Your silence, on the other hand, is your triumph. When you do not react in the way they expect, when you hold your composure instead of surrendering it, a subtle but powerful shift occurs. They begin to question themselves. They start wondering if they misjudged your strength, if their insult missed its mark, if perhaps you are planning something they cannot anticipate. Silence breeds mystery, and mystery breeds fear. Fear, in turn, creates respect. But there is a crucial distinction that must be made here. The silence of someone who is hurt and confused screams weakness. It tells the world, I do not know how to respond. I am vulnerable. I am fractured. The silence of someone who has chosen not to respond, on the other hand, whispers power. It signals control, composure, and intelligence. It is deliberate, calculated, and devastatingly effective. When you master silence, you send a message far stronger than any words could convey. You cannot be shaken, you cannot be manipulated, and you cannot be touched by petty attacks. Developing this kind of silence requires practice and patience. The next time someone tries to provoke you, resist the immediate urge to reply. Count to 10. Let their words pass over you like wind over stone. Extend the pause to 20. Observe the discomfort growing in them, the frustration building, and the subtle panic that comes when their attempts to control you fail. You are not reacting. You are commanding. Every word you withhold, every argument you refuse to enter into, reinforces the unshakable aura you are cultivating. Remember, silence is not passivity. It is a strategic tool. It allows you to control the tempo of every encounter, to dominate without aggression, and to build a reputation that precedes you. People will respect the one who does not need to justify, explain, or defend themselves. They will fear the one whose presence alone commands composure and authority. Your silence is not emptiness. It is a statement. It is an assertion that your power lies not in the chaos around you, but in the control you maintain within yourself. From this moment forward, practice your silence. Make it deliberate. Make it unshakable. Watch as others grow uncomfortable, uncertain, and ultimately respectful of the calm, untouchable presence you are cultivating. And as you do, repeat this affirmation in your mind. Internalize it and let it shape every interaction. Silence is strength. Law 3. Control your emotional narrative. The third law takes everything you have learned about detachment and silence and pushes it even further. It is the law that separates those who are untouchable in theory from those who are untouchable in practice. Control your emotional narrative. Most people believe that emotions are something that happen to them, like the weather. An insult arrives and suddenly they feel anger, hurt, or fear, as though these emotions were automatic responses beyond their control. Machiavelli understood differently. Emotions are tools, and you are the master of how they are experienced, expressed, and used. You decide the story of your own reactions. Every attempt to provoke you, every insult or slight is meaningless unless you assign it meaning. The world is full of petty provocateurs, people who thrive on eliciting a response because it gives them a sense of power. If you allow this, you have handed them the script of your life. You have allowed them to write the story of your day, your mood, and your self-worth. To be untouchable, you must take that pen back. You must narrate your own experience, framing each challenge, each insult, each betrayal in a way that neutralizes its effect and converts it into a source of strength. Reframing is not just a mental trick, it is a strategic choice. When someone insults you, see it as an opportunity to demonstrate your composure. When someone tries to belittle your accomplishments, recognize it as a reflection of their own limitations, not yours. When envy or betrayal surfaces, consider it evidence that you are operating on a level that provokes attention, and that attention, when properly managed, can reinforce your dominance. By controlling the story you tell yourself about these events, you remove their ability to hurt you, and you reclaim the authority over your own state of mind. This law also demands vigilance. You must constantly monitor how you interpret and react to the world. Do not allow impulsive feelings to dictate behavior. Do not allow fleeting indignation to rewrite your internal narrative. Instead, take a step back, observe the situation with precision, and consciously choose how you will perceive it. This is the difference between someone who is merely resilient and someone who is truly untouchable. The resilient may survive insults, but the untouchable absorbs them, neutralizes their effect, and transforms them into strategic advantage. Control of your emotional narrative is also a silent signal to others. When people attempt to provoke you and fail, when they see that no insult, no manipulation, no attack can sway you from your calm and composed center, they begin to respect you. They begin to fear you, not in a violent sense, but in the sense that you are untouchable, unpredictable, and impossible to control. You are no longer a participant in their petty games. You are an observer, a strategist, and a presence that cannot be moved by the chaos of their intent. From this point forward, make the conscious decision to control your emotional narrative. Decide how you will perceive each interaction, each attack, and each slight. Reframe it, neutralize its power, and turn it into a tool to reinforce your composure, confidence, and dominance. This is the Machiavellian approach. You are the author of your own mind, and no one else gets to write your story. Law 4. Turn weakness into strategy. The fourth law is one of the most counterintuitive yet most powerful lessons in the Machiavellian playbook. Turn weakness into strategy. Most people see vulnerability as a liability, a sign of fragility, something to hide at all costs. Machiavelli, however, understood that appearances are everything, and that perceived weakness can be a tool if wielded with precision. When used strategically, vulnerability becomes a mask, a lure, and a weapon that manipulates perception, controls expectations, and positions you for advantage. Think about it. If people believe you are weak, uncertain, or defenseless, they may underestimate you, act carelessly, or overreach in ways that expose their own vulnerabilities. This is where strategy turns what seems like a weakness into a trap. Appearing vulnerable is not about surrender. It is about controlling the way others perceive reality. It is about creating opportunities for maneuvering, for striking when the moment is right, for shaping interactions to your advantage. Machiavelli's world was one where subtlety mattered more than brute force, where anticipation outperformed reaction, and where the clever manipulator always won. The mastery of this law requires self-awareness and restraint. You must understand when to reveal vulnerability and when to conceal strength. Timing is everything. If you constantly project toughness, others may become defensive, cautious, or even aggressive in response. If you occasionally reveal a controlled vulnerability, it disarms them, lowers their guard, and gives you the space to act with precision. Weakness, when displayed deliberately, is a tool for testing reactions, gathering information, and reinforcing your strategic position. It is not real weakness. It is perception sculpted into power. Perception itself is a battlefield. People do not react to objective reality. They react to the reality you present to them. By controlling the narrative of your own strength and weakness, you dictate the way others approach you, how they plan against you, and how they interact with you. They are constantly responding to the signals you give, which means every interaction becomes an opportunity to reinforce your dominance. You are no longer at the mercy of others' judgments. You shape them. You turn what seems like vulnerability into a tool for influence, control, and ultimately respect. To practice this law, start observing how people react to appearances. Notice when overconfidence or projected toughness provokes resistance, and when subtle restraint or controlled vulnerability invites cooperation or underestimation. Use this knowledge to orchestrate your presence. Walk through life knowing when to appear exposed and when to remain impenetrable. Every perceived weakness is a brushstroke in the portrait of power you are painting, a calculated image designed to make you both unpredictable and formidable. When executed correctly, this law creates a paradox that confounds observers. They see weakness, yet they respect you. They think you are vulnerable, yet you operate with complete control. You are untouchable, not because you are invincible, but because you have learned how to turn perception into power and strategy into dominance. Law 5. Observe, don't react. The fifth law is deceptively simple, yet it is one of the hardest for most people to master. Observe, don't react. The world is full of provocations, distractions, and manipulations, and the vast majority of people respond impulsively. They see an insult, a betrayal, or an attempt to undermine them, and they react immediately. Their thoughts scatter, their emotions flare, and their power evaporates before they even realize it. Machiavelli understood that reacting is the beginning of surrender, the moment when someone else begins to dictate your mental state. To be untouchable, you must pause, observe, and hold your response until you are ready. Observation is not passive. It is active, deliberate, and strategic. When someone seeks to provoke you, watch carefully. Notice the patterns in their behavior, the way they choose to attack, and the triggers they rely on. Most provocations are not personal. They are tests. They are ways for others to measure your strength, your resolve, and your composure. By observing instead of reacting, you remove their ability to manipulate you. You gather information. You anticipate their moves. You begin to see the game before it is fully played, and in doing so, you step out of the reactive chaos that traps ordinary people. This law requires patience and self-control. Do not allow instinct to dictate your behavior. Do not respond with anger, defensiveness, or explanation. Instead, watch, learn, analyze. Every action that seeks to disturb you becomes a piece of data, a thread in the fabric of understanding your environment and the people around you. By observing, you transform potential threats into opportunities for mastery. You remain calm when others are frantic, composed when others are panicked, and in control when others are vulnerable. Observation also builds power through unpredictability. When people realize that you do not react in predictable ways, they begin to fear you. They begin to hesitate before trying to provoke you because the outcome is uncertain. Unpredictability is a weapon. Predictable people can be manipulated, controlled, and exploited. Those who are unpredictable, who see, understand, and decide when and how to act, are dangerous. They are respected and, in subtle ways, feared. By observing, you create this unpredictability naturally. You learn when silence is appropriate, when a small gesture is enough, and when an action can decisively alter the balance of influence. To put this law into practice, start by cultivating awareness in every interaction. Watch the motives behind words, the timing of gestures, and the patterns of behavior in those around you. Let impulses pass without acting on them immediately. Create a mental space between provocation and response, and in that space, decide your course with precision. This is how untouchable people operate. They see the world as it is, unclouded by emotion, and they choose their actions deliberately, not reactively. Observation is the foundation for every law that follows. Without it, detachment is incomplete, silence is impotent, and strategy is blind. With it, you become an architect of your interactions, a master of perception, and an untouchable presence in a world desperate to provoke weakness. Law 6. Cultivate an aura of calm authority. The sixth law is where presence becomes power. Cultivate an aura of calm authority. Most people underestimate how much of influence and respect comes not from words, but from the energy they project. A person who reacts impulsively, whose voice trembles with indignation, or whose movements betray panic, immediately signals weakness. Machiavelli knew that true power is communicated as much through stillness and poise as through strategy and intellect. Calm authority is magnetic, intimidating, and commanding. It signals to the world that you are in control, untouchable, and above the petty chaos that ensnares everyone else. Calm authority begins internally, rooted in mastery over your own mind and emotions. If your thoughts are scattered, if your heart races at every insult or slight, no external display can mask it. But when you train yourself to remain steady, you create an internal core that projects outward. People can sense this. They may not consciously understand it, but they feel it instinctively. A calm, unshakable presence draws attention, commands respect, and imposes a subtle fear, the fear of unpredictability, the fear of a mind that cannot be manipulated, the fear of power that does not need to shout to exist. Physicality plays a crucial role in this law. The way you move, the way you stand, and the tone of your voice all communicate authority. Walk with purpose, not haste. Speak with deliberation, not reaction. Make eye contact without aggression, but with quiet confidence that signals dominance. Every gesture, every posture, every inflection contributes to the perception of someone who is not just composed, but untouchable. People instinctively respond to these signals, whether in respect, caution, or subtle deference. But calm authority is more than just a mask. It is a state of being that must be cultivated consciously. It requires deliberate practice to maintain composure under pressure, to resist the urge to argue, explain, or justify, and to carry yourself as though nothing can disturb your center. When insults or provocation arise, the person who has mastered this law does not flinch. They observe, they analyze, they respond selectively, and their mere presence communicates a level of dominance that words could never achieve. Calm authority also creates a protective barrier. People are less likely to attack someone who appears untouchable because uncertainty becomes a deterrent. They hesitate, they second-guess, and they ultimately respect the person who remains serene while chaos swirls around them. This law turns composure into a weapon, an invisible shield, and a statement of dominance. Your calmness is not passive. It is active power. It is a constant signal that you are in control, that you are calculating, and that you operate on a level beyond manipulation, drama, or provocation. To practice this law, begin with small, controlled exercises. In conversations, resist the urge to react immediately to challenges or disagreements. In stressful situations, focus on your posture, your breathing, and your tone. Observe the subtle shifts in others' behavior as they encounter your calm presence. Over time, this will not only reinforce your own composure, but also condition the world to treat you differently. People instinctively recognize and respect those who exude quiet authority. And once you combine this presence with the other laws of mental mastery, you become truly untouchable, a figure who commands respect without ever asking for it. Law 7. Make respect a consequence, not a request. The seventh law is where mastery over self meets mastery over others. Make respect a consequence, not a request. Most people go through life begging for respect in one form or another. through words, titles, gestures, or achievements. They constantly seek validation, attempting to convince the world that they are worthy of admiration or consideration. Machiavelli understood that respect cannot be demanded. It must be commanded through presence, behavior, and reputation. When you operate from this principle, respect becomes an inevitable byproduct of who you are and how you navigate the world, rather than a fragile gift you must plead for. To earn respect in this way, you must cultivate consistency. Your words, actions, and demeanor should reflect an unwavering standard of composure and authority. People notice patterns, and they respond to the predictable strength of someone who does not falter under pressure. Consistency signals control. It tells others that no matter the circumstances, you remain untouchable. But there is a second layer, unpredictability. While your core remains composed, your reactions should be strategically unpredictable. People respect those who cannot be easily anticipated, who operate according to their own logic, not the expectations of others. By balancing consistency with strategic unpredictability, you create a presence that is magnetic, intimidating, and impossible to manipulate. Self-mastery is the third pillar of this law. Without control over your emotions, impulses, and reactions, consistency is impossible, and unpredictability becomes chaos. Respect flows from the perception of control. When others see that you are untouchable in mind, unshakable in demeanor, and deliberate in every action, they respond naturally. They do not fear you in the violent sense, but they recognize a quiet authority that commands acknowledgement, compliance, and admiration. They cannot help but respect someone who does not seek their approval, yet dominates their perception. Making respect a consequence also means removing the need for justification. Do not explain your worth. Do not demand acknowledgement. Do not argue for validation. Every act of composure, every measured response, every display of calm authority reinforces your value silently but powerfully. People will notice it, and their respect will follow, often unconsciously. Respect becomes the natural outcome of observing a person who cannot be shaken, a person whose actions and presence speak louder than any words could. To put this law into practice, examine your interactions. Are you constantly explaining, defending, or pleading for acknowledgement? Or do you act in ways that naturally elicit recognition without ever asking for it? Shift your focus from convincing others to observing how your composure, strategic behavior, and presence generate the acknowledgement and deference you deserve. Over time, you will find that the world reacts differently. People treat you with the respect that you do not request because they perceive strength, control, and mastery at every level of your being. This is the essence of Machiavellian power. You are not vulnerable to manipulation, and respect is not given. It is earned, inevitable, and undeniable. Law 8. Turn provocations into opportunities. The eighth law is where the truly Machiavellian mind separates itself from the ordinary. Turn provocations into opportunities. Most people see insults, mockery, and betrayal as setbacks, attacks, or personal failures. They allow these moments to wound their pride, disrupt their focus, and shatter their composure. Machiavelli, however, saw the world differently. Every attempt to provoke you is not a threat. It is a chance to demonstrate control, to gather information, and to reinforce your untouchable presence. The world constantly tests you, but the tests themselves are neutral. It is your response that determines whether they become tools of empowerment or sources of weakness. When someone insults you, for example, the immediate impulse is to react, defend, or justify yourself. That is exactly what they want. By resisting this impulse, by stepping back and observing instead, you transform their provocation into an opportunity. You learn their patterns, their strategies, and their insecurities. You see how they attempt to manipulate your emotions, and by remaining unshakable, you gain a hidden advantage. The provocation becomes a rehearsal, a controlled experiment that strengthens your ability to remain composed in future encounters. It is no longer a threat, but a stepping stone toward mastery. Betrayal functions in the same way. Most people are devastated by the betrayal of friends, colleagues, or acquaintances. They spiral into anger, despair, or self-doubt. A Machiavellian, on the other hand, sees betrayal as a test of foresight, patience, and strategic thinking. It exposes weaknesses in others, reveals intentions, and provides opportunities to recalibrate relationships, set boundaries, and assert dominance. Each betrayal is a lesson, each insult a chance to practice restraint, each attempt at manipulation a mirror showing you the world as it truly is. The key to this law is mental reframing. You must train yourself to perceive provocations not as attacks on your person, but as information about the motives and weaknesses of others. This mindset converts potential threats into tools for growth, awareness, and strategic advantage. When practiced consistently, it creates a powerful feedback loop. The more provocations you encounter, the more skilled you become at maintaining composure, controlling perception, and asserting authority. The world begins to work for you, rather than against you. Turning provocations into opportunities also communicates strength externally. When others see that their attempts to unsettle you fail, they begin to respect, and even fear, your composure. You are signaling that you are not only unshakable, but that you are constantly learning, adapting, and growing stronger from the very attempts designed to diminish you. By the time they realize your power, it is already undeniable. Provocations cease to be a source of stress. They become your proving ground, the stage upon which your dominance is silently established and continuously reinforced. Law 9. Keep enemies close, observers closer. The 9th law is one of the most subtle and yet most powerful. Keep enemies close, but observers closer. Machiavelli understood that knowledge is the foundation of control, and control is the essence of power. Most people operate blindly, trusting appearances, believing that everyone's intentions are benign, or assuming that they can simply react when conflict arises. This is the path to vulnerability. The truly untouchable, however, knows that the world is full of hidden agendas, concealed motives, and quiet manipulations. To navigate it successfully, you must be vigilant, always watching, always analyzing, and always learning. Keeping enemies close is not merely about proximity. It is about awareness. It is about understanding their patterns, anticipating their moves, and predicting the ways they might attempt to undermine or destabilize you. But it goes beyond this. Observers, those who are neither allies nor overt threats, offer the most valuable insight. They reveal the currents of opinion, the subtle dynamics of influence, and the unspoken fears and ambitions that shape the behavior of everyone around you. By paying attention to these observers, you gain the upper hand before any confrontation even begins. You learn what motivates, what provokes, and what intimidates, and you use that knowledge to control outcomes without ever appearing aggressive or reactive. Strategic awareness through observation allows you to operate several steps ahead of everyone else. When someone tries to provoke or manipulate you, you already know the context, the likely strategy, and the potential consequences. This foresight removes surprise from the equation, leaving you unshakable. Your enemy's attempts to destabilize you fail because you have anticipated them, and your observer's insights allow you to influence situations subtly, shaping perception and outcomes in your favor without overt confrontation. This is the quiet, invisible power that separates the untouchable from the ordinary. Active. Another key aspect of this law is patience. By keeping your distance and observing carefully, you avoid impulsive reactions that reveal your vulnerabilities. You see plots before they fully unfold. You notice envy before it turns into sabotage, and you recognize opportunities in the patterns of others' behavior. In essence, you become a strategist of human behavior, an orchestrator of interactions, and a force whose calm awareness commands subtle authority. People may not immediately realize the extent of your perception, but they will sense it. Your presence will carry weight, your judgments will seem prescient, and your silence will speak louder than any accusation or boast. Ultimately, this law reinforces all the others. By keeping enemies close and observers closer, you ensure that provocation is always anticipated, insult is always neutralized, and manipulation is always understood before it can take hold. You convert potential threats into intelligence, uncertainty into clarity, and the chaos of human behavior into a stage upon which your untouchable presence is unmistakably felt. Those who fail to practice this law are constantly blindsided, reactive, and vulnerable. Those who master it operate above the fray, untouchable, respected, and strategically dominant in every interaction. Law 10. Command respect. Through action, not words. The 10th and final law is the culmination of everything you have learned. Command respect through action, not words. Most people believe that respect can be demanded through speech, titles, or declarations of worth. They think that arguing, boasting, or explaining themselves will convince the world to treat them with admiration. Machiavelli knew the truth. Words are cheap, easily dismissed, and often ignored. Respect is earned through what you do, through the weight of your presence, the precision of your actions, and the unshakable mastery you display over yourself and your environment. Action communicates far more than words ever could. When you move with purpose, when your results speak louder than arguments, when your composure is unwavering and your decisions are deliberate, you send a message that cannot be ignored. Others instinctively sense power when it is embodied. They do not need to hear you claim authority. They feel it radiate from your presence. Every measured step, every silent refusal to react unnecessarily, every calculated choice reinforces the perception of control and competence. This is how respect becomes inevitable, not because it is requested, but because it is earned through the reality of your being. To command respect through action, you must first master yourself. Without self-discipline, emotional control, and the ability to remain unshaken in the face of provocation, actions alone are hollow. They may impress briefly, but they do not create lasting authority. When your actions are guided by calm strategy, deliberate observation, and calculated response, every interaction reinforces your dominance. Others recognize that you operate beyond impulsivity, beyond petty drama, and beyond their attempts to manipulate you. You are a presence that cannot be easily influenced, and that presence commands a level of respect words could never achieve. Another critical element is consistency paired with unpredictability. Your actions must be reliable in quality and effectiveness, yet unpredictable in timing or approach. People respect those whose capabilities are proven, but whose methods cannot be anticipated. This combination keeps others alert, cautious, and inherently deferential. When insults, tests, or provocations arise, your actions demonstrate that attempts to unsettle you are futile. Your mastery of self and your deliberate responses become a silent statement. You are untouchable, and no one can control you. Finally, understand that commanding respect through action is a long-game strategy. It is not about a single victory, a single display, or a single moment of dominance. It is about building a reputation that precedes you, an aura that communicates power before a word is even spoken. Over time, people begin to react differently. They hesitate to challenge you, they observe you with caution, and they naturally defer to your authority. Respect becomes a natural consequence of the reality you embody, a reality built on the foundation of silence, detachment, observation, strategic vulnerability, and unwavering composure. Repeat this affirmation as you internalize this law. I am untouchable. Your actions, not your words, are the instruments of your power, and when executed with mastery, They establish an unassailable presence that commands respect automatically. By now, you understand what sets the untouchable apart from the ordinary. You have seen that reacting emotionally, defending your ego, or pleading for respect is surrender. You have learned the principles that transform insult into opportunity, silence into power, observation into control, and vulnerability into strategy. You have discovered the 10 laws that allow you to operate above the chaos, above the envy, above the petty manipulations that dominate the lives of most people. You are no longer someone at the mercy of circumstance. You are someone who shapes it. Remember this. Power begins the moment you stop giving it away. Every insult, every betrayal, every attempt to provoke you only has meaning if you allow it. By mastering detachment, controlling your emotional narrative, observing without reacting, cultivating calm authority, and commanding respect through action, you have taken back control over the only thing that truly matters, your mind. These laws are not suggestions. They are strategies for survival, dominance, and influence in a world that will test you relentlessly. Your journey does not end here. The world will continue to challenge you. People will attempt to manipulate, provoke, or belittle you. But if you apply these laws consistently, if you internalize their lessons and practice them daily, you will find yourself operating on a plane beyond their reach. You will become unpredictable, unshakable, and untouchable. You will not ask for respect, because respect will follow naturally, born from the reality of your presence, your mastery, and your composure. Now take this moment to declare it fully. Repeat this affirmation aloud or in your mind. I command respect without asking. I am untouchable. Feel the weight of it, the authority it conveys, the power it asserts. Let it guide your thoughts, your actions, and your presence in every interaction. This is the Machiavellian promise. Mastery of self equals mastery over perception, mastery over influence, and mastery over the chaos that surrounds you. From today forward, walk through the world knowing that you are untouchable. Every provocation is anticipated. Every insult is neutralized. Every attempt at manipulation is seen and controlled. You operate with a calm authority that is magnetic and intimidating, a presence that commands respect without words, and a mind that is impenetrable. Master yourself, and the world will bow quietly to your composure. This is ultimate dominance. This is the reality of the Machiavellian mindset. This is who you are now, untouchable, unstoppable, and above the reach of anyone's petty attempts to control you.